time. See, please concentrate. So there are two types of tables that are available in your the star schema or snowflake schema. So what is a star schema? Star schema is nothing but the fact table that is the fact table that is surrounded by many dimension tables usually. Okay, and what is a fact table? Fact table consists of the surrogate key or the key columns from all the surrounding dimension tables. Along with that, we store the fact or the measures. The classic example for the measure is or the fact is in revenue and units sold, okay, and net margin or margin percentage, right? These are called your facts. The dimension table is also called a lookup table, and fact table is also called a transaction table. That's it. These are the difference between these two. And fact table carries all the transactions, whereas the lookup or dimension table carries all the filtering information. We can say that way also. Okay. So before the next topic is active and versus inactive relationship. Before we dive in there, first of all, we will jump into the or head over to the Power BI desktop, and we will see how we can load the tables and how do we create the relationship between the tables first. Okay. For that, I'm going to open a new Power BI desktop. Uploaded all the tables. Anyhow, if I upload it, load the data fresh, you will be able to understand. Okay, we'll do it from the ground up for the moment. Okay, I'm going to click on the get data. So this is the sheet I wanted, the data in the sales fact table. Okay, I'm going to load this data into Power BI desktop. Okay, I'm going to rename it as sales fact. Now, what the objective is, what we are going to do is we will see how we can create the relationship. Okay, I'm going to hit the Excel workbook here and in dim customer dimension table. So a fact table, and let us load couple of dimension tables. Product dimension table, I'm going to load it. dim customer dimension, product dimension, fact table, and I have another table called dim location. Dim location. Yes, I'm going to hit open. Location dimension table. Okay, here the column problem is there. We need to do a little bit formatting. This is my location dimension, dim location. Since it requires some kind of formatting because the column names were not appearing correctly, I go to the Power Query editor. And here, what I will do is the customer dimension. We have some issues, right? I'm going to the transform ribbon and use first row as it is because the first row in this data set as the column header here, right? This is not the desired one. We need to move this. We need to promote this first row, as a column, okay, and use first row as it is. We are done. Okay, now the column names are defined correctly. And if I go here, dim location, I just do the same thing. Okay, that's it. It doesn't require any more data transformation. I'm going to click on the file, close and apply. I'm going to click on the model view. In the model view, it has automatically detected the relationship between the tables. What I'm going to do is, for the sake of understanding, I just move this fact table down here and I keep all the dimension table at the top. So I'm going to keep this down here. Then if you see here, all the dimension tables, next to all the dimension tables, see, you can see the one, right? The one. And here also you can see one and you can see one here. Next to the fact table, you can see star, which means many, one to many. All these three dimension tables have one to many relationship with the sales fact table. Okay. So now the question is, do I have to create the relationship manually or can I leave it with the Power BI desktop? Usually what they do is, in real-time scenario, we create it manually, okay? Even though Power BI detects, but it depends on the project, depends on the customer. What we do is, 1 second. So in this case, what we do is, we will drop the relationship between the tables, okay? Delete. Click on the relationship. The relationship, nothing but the line, okay? I'm going to select this line between these two tables, okay? I'm going to keep the cursor on top of this, right click on it, delete it. Even though Power BI desktop detects the relationship automatically, you need to cross verify it. Let us assume that in your project, you are supposed to create the relationship manually. Okay, how do I do that? So in that case, you need to check what columns are common between the dimension tables and the fact table. The customer ID column and customer ID column. You simply drag and drop it on top of this. And if you keep the cursor on top of this line, you can see that customer ID and customer ID, these two columns got highlighted. Hence, we can make out very clearly these two tables got created with the relationship based on the common column custom ID. Okay. And the next one is the product dimension table. And here the product ID column. Need to go and check any product. Yes. Select this and keep the cursor on top and then drop it here. Okay. Next one is the location key. Similarly, location key, we can create the relationship. Okay, now what I do is how do I, if I keep the cursor over here, we can get to know that between these two tables, the common column is customer ID, right? Custody. And if you click on the relationship here, the line, and it will open up the dialog box, something like this. Okay. And here you can see that the sales fact table and the custody table, right? So once again, let me just sales fact table and in the customer dimension table, custody and custody, these two columns got gray. That means these two columns are common column. These two columns were selected to create the relationship between the tables. But, so that is what happening here, the one-to-many relationship. This is my, 1 second, let me just move this up. If I open up this, here you can see that this is what your sales fact table and this is what your customer dimension table. Okay. And here the customer ID is the common column. That is what we have selected, right? I just selected the customer ID column here and dragged and dropped it on top of the sales fact table's customer ID. Okay. So, and when you click on the relationship, it will open up the dialog box. Here you can see that the columns which we have chosen to create the relationship. In this case, custody. Very good. This is how you can cross verify. And the next step is, if you look at on the right bottom, you're in cross filter direction, and we have something else called cardinality. Okay. And in this case, for example, if you click on the drop down here, we have single both. There are two types of filter direction, single and both. The both is bidirectional. We call it as a bidirectional. Single is a unidirection. Okay, filtering. The filtering, the default cross filter direction is single. And if you want to enable the filter direction both, you can select this one. Let us at this moment leave this default value single as it is, and you can see on the left side the cardinality. If you click on the drop down, you can see many to one, one to one, one to many, many to many. These are the types of relationships are available. And for these two tables, sales fact and customer dimension, many to one relationship, because in the sales fact table, multiple instances of the customer ID, you can see, look here, C01 is repeated here, whereas here the C001 should not repeat more than one time, because the customer dimension table, it is also called as a master table, lookup table. But when it comes to analytics, we call it a the dimension table. Okay, fine. What is the next thing? Okay, so I will explain you these options little later. Don't worry. Okay, I'm going to hit OK now. Fine. And now we are left with the location key column in the location dimension, and we have in the sales fact location key column is there. Hence, we can drag and drop it here. So, there are two approaches you can use it to create the relationship between the tables. One is drag and drop the common columns, right, between the tables. The other option is you can click on the manage relationship here. If you click on the manage relationship, and here if you click on new, and here you go and select sales fact and location dimension, we are yet to create it. So this is another way of creating the relationship between the tables. And now the location dimension table, location key got selected automatically. Okay, and I just redo it one more time. Yes, new, and here I'm going to say select sales fact, and I'm going to select location dimension. Look here, the location key in both these tables, it got grayed out, right? It got selected automatically. And here the cross filter is single. I'm not going to touch anything here. I'm going to hit OK now. This is and close it. And you can, if you see here, yes, a relationship got created. This is another way of creating the relationship between the tables. Okay, good. What are the other things you should be aware of? That's it. And if you see here, all these dimension key columns. Here customer ID, cust ID, product ID, location key is flowing from your dimension table to your fact table. Okay, but in this case, the common key column between the tables are similar, cust ID, cust ID. Supposing here you have customer ID, Power BI will not detect the relationship automatically. Instead of cust ID, if you have customer ID, but whereas here the column name is cust ID, in that case, it will not find any common column between these two tables. The one way out is you can change this cust ID as a customer ID, or you can change the customer ID as cust ID in this table. Okay, in any one of the table, you need to, or make sure that in both the table, the common column name is similar. Even if it is not similar, you don't have to, let's say you don't want to rename it. Okay, let's say here you have customer ID and you have cust ID. Okay, in that case, it will not create the relationship, the line automatically. But you can, if you know the domain very well, and you can select the cust ID and put it on top of the customer ID. Okay, this is how you can get the relationship. But there are scenarios we have seen the common column between the tables are there, but the naming standard was not. So here they call it a cust ID, here they call it as a customer ID. You need to double check with the customer which columns that you need to map, okay, or create the relationship between the tables. Which column, what is the common column? Here I can see the cust ID, here I can see customer ID. The other way of, instead of asking the customer, before asking the customer, double click on it and check the values that are there in both the tables. Customer, yeah, you say this is a customer ID is there, or your customer ID is there, your cust ID is there. So all the values are more or less, but how, even though the values are similar, still you can check with the customer because the naming standard is not same. Can I rename it as cust ID? Currently, I'm seeing customer ID. Can I rename it as cust ID for the sake of consistency? You can ask them, okay? And then you can rename it, okay? Fine. We are done the simple data model design. Okay. In this table, the customer ID is the primary key column. And in this table, location key is the primary column. It is also called as a primary key column is also called as a surrogate key in the case of dimension tables. And even in this case, the product ID, right? So this is the key column, okay? And if you see the sales fact table, location key, product ID, and your customer ID, all these three dimensions key columns are available in this table. It should be there, okay? Only then you can use any one of the dimensions to filter your fact table data. Got it? Okay. So this is the simple thing. You need to be aware of it. And if you click on the three dots here, right, in any one of the tables, right, if you click on this one, you will find the context menu, something like that. You can click on the new measure that we will see it later. It is too early to discuss. If you want to create a new column, you can click on the new column and you can create it. And if you want to edit the query, you can click on it and it will take you to the Power Query editor. Okay. And then now anyhow, I don't need it. I just show you what options are available here, okay? And the three dots, if you see here, manage relationship, incremental refresh, make aggregation, the rest of them, we will delete from model, you know very well. Hide in a report, okay? It will be there still here, but in the report, this table will not be visible, okay? That and all, we'll see it later. So this is the fundamental thing you should be aware of it, okay? I just go here and I'm going to create a visual now. First name, the first name of the customer, and then the fact table, the sales sum or quantity. Okay, let us use quantity. How many units bought by each customer? In this case, oddly, I have 6 customers are there. Okay, we have 6 customers are there. The first name comes from the customer dimension table. and then the sum of quantity comes in the sales fact. It is doing the filtering automatically. It gives me the breakup of the units sold by customer. Okay, it's pretty, because the relationship, right? If I remove the relationship between these two tables now, because in this table you can see that the customer, this column comes from customer dimension, this column comes from your sales fact table. Since the customer dimension table and fact table already have a one-to-many relationship, it is doing the filtering correctly, accurately. Relation should be there. Without relationship, if you have more than one table, it will show wrong values. Okay, fine. So it's pretty simple one. Anyhow, I will show you, certain things later. Okay, a little bit complex thing. Okay, I will show you later. For example, in this table, all these dimension table, we have only one key column is there. Here cust ID, here you have product ID, and here you have the location. There are scenarios you will have to use the composite key. So you will have something like customer ID and some other key column will be there. With the combination of these two key columns, you need to do the filtering. So in Power BI, you cannot select multiple columns, right, as a key column. For example, if I double click on it, it will open up the dialog box. And here, I cannot select more than one column. Look here. Even if you hold the control key, you cannot select more than one column. For example, I want to join these two columns. I want to join these two columns. Okay. But let's assume that here also you have customer ID, product ID column is there. Is there any way, can I select two columns here and two columns here, customer ID, product ID? Don't think about first name, okay? You just think here product ID is there. Since here also product ID, customer ID, here also product ID, customer order doesn't matter, okay? Product ID is there here. And you cannot create it because at a time you can select only one column between the tables, okay? In that case, look here, these two columns got grayed out. If you select multi-select more than one column, if you select it, it will not get grayed. That means you cannot use the composite key to create the relationship between the tables. What do you mean by composite key? Sometimes you cannot find out a record uniquely using a single primary key column. Yeah, so to create a primary key column, so you can create a primary key column on a single column. You can create a primary key on more than one column also. Two similar columns, which column gets selected as the key column? That's a good question. So Pooja's question is, I have two similar columns, right? So for example, if I'll just go back here, okay? How can you have two similar columns? That is part of your, that's what we, once you load the data, make sure that the column names are, unique, or the column names are, you have duplicate columns. If you have duplicate columns, you need to remove it. Okay. Okay, it will not detect. Okay, it will find out the common column between the tables. That's all. Okay. How can you have, for example, if I'm going to rename it as, okay, here, why it is not allowing me to rename it here? For example, here, in this case, in the customer dimension, right? Okay, if I create customer ID, is that what you're saying? Customer ID. See, already used for the column and choose different name. You cannot first of all create a duplicate column, okay, in a table. Okay, sorry, by similar I mean if we have product ID and customer ID in both the tables, then which one becomes the key column? Yes, that is what I'm talking about, the composite key column. Okay, so in that case, you cannot create the relationship between the tables with the composite key. Okay, in Power BI desktop you cannot do that. Okay, there is a limitation with that. So in that case, the alternative way of what we do is, in that case, supposing, see, in this table, the classic example is, you have the order table, right? You have something called order ID, order number, okay, order number, and and line number, line item number or line number, okay? And then the product ID, and then the quantity, okay? This is enough. Product ID, quantity, and order ID. What did I say this one? Okay, product ID, quantity. This is your line number, okay? Line item number or something like that. See, in an order ID, let's say my order ID is 1001. Here I bought a product by the name of L001. It's a Lux soap, okay? And I bought 2 quantity. And then I just, in the same order, I bought one more item. Listen, I have something called C001, the coconut oil, 2 units. I bought it. Okay, in this case, how can you uniquely identify a record in this case, right? In an order, single order, you can have more than one item also. In this case, the line item column will have 1, 2. In the order ID 1001, we have in the first line item, we have a customer ordered product ID. Second line item, we have the other product in order, the coconut oil bought by the customer. In this case, how will you uniquely identify a record? For example, we have C1002. Here also you have line item 1 and L001 and quantity 2. This is, but again, you have the customer ID, right? Customer ID. Customer ID is, let's say A1, A2, A3. How will you identify? So this order, 101, line item 1, the product ID is L01, same product ID here. Number of quantities are same, but the customer ID is different. So now, how will you identify unique record in this table? Can someone tell me? What columns are required in order to identify unique? For example, how do you distinguish this, first order ID and the second order ID? How do you distinguish it? How do you uniquely identify the record? In that case, you need to use the order ID and the customer ID also, right? Customer ID, order ID, and then product ID. With this combination of 3, it forms as a unique key, right? The composite key. We cannot use 1002 to uniquely identify a record, right? So in this case, if I wanted to know, the product ID L001, bought by, in which order ID, product ID L001, bought by customer ID A3. If they ask you this question, then you need this information, this information. If you join these 3 values, you will be able to deduct this record, isn't it? Hey, in this one, okay, he ordered 2 quantity. Who? The customer ID A3, he ordered 2 products in order ID, this one, okay? So you need these 2 and 3 columns in order to identify this record uniquely. Because without customer ID, there is another, but here the order ID is different. The product ID is same, the quantity is same, right? So how will you identify here in this case? Right? So you need to do it. So in this case, what we do is we combine the columns together, okay? For example, order ID plus this one, we concatenate the values. For example, simple ID, right? So for example, in this table itself, for example, you have, look here, product ID and category ID is there, right? And these 2 columns are key columns. But if I want to combine these 2 combination of the columns, and then if I want to create a relationship with the combination of these 2 columns with this one, that is not possible. But what we do is we create some custom column. We combine or concatenate these 2 columns values in a single column. Similarly, we combine these in a single column, and then you create a relationship. I have one case study. I will show you later. Don't worry. Okay. When I explain the many to many, I'll explain you. Don't worry. Composite key. Okay. Not all the time you can uniquely identify a record with a single primary key column. Okay. At this moment, you just pass this one. Okay. And we will discuss this little later. Don't worry. Okay. Fine, now you understood the basics of how to create the relationship between the tables manually. Okay, supposing, is there any way that I can, configure something in the Power BI desktop? Hey, you don't do any, you don't detect any relationship between the tables. I will create it manually. So in that case, you can go to the file menu, click on option settings and options, and then go here. And if you see here, we have something called data load. And here, let me do one thing. I'll just click on the data load and import. Look here, relationship. There is something called relationships option that is available in your data load. Okay. And here you can unselect it, auto deduct new relationship. Okay. Import relationship from data source on first load. You can unselect this one. You can also unselect this one, so that even if the column name, common column names are same between the tables, it will not detect the relationship automatically. It will not create it. We have to create it manually. So there are two approaches. One is you can drag the common column, in this case, the customer ID and customer ID here, drag the column and drop it on top of the customer ID of this table to create the relationship. Okay. And the other alternative is, okay, I don't want to do drag and drop. Click on the manage relationship and you go here, click on new, and here you can select the tables. For example, I want to select the customer dimension table and the sales fact table. It automatically detects the customer and customer. There is already a relationship between these two columns. Okay. These two columns are already we created it. And this is for demo purpose, I'm saying. Okay. And click on OK. Since you have already created, it will not work. It says, already you created the relationship. Why you want to create it again? That is what it says. Okay. So two approaches, drag and drop the common columns. Other approaches, no, I don't want to drag and drop. Then you can go to the manage relationship. Supposing I created the relationship, but later on I realized, for example, I just go here and delete it. I have the customer ID column. So in a hurry, right, I just dragged and dropped it here, but relationship got created. But if I double click on it here, I can go and verify it. The product ID and customer ID got selected. This is a wrong, right? The common column between these tables, customer ID and customer ID, mistakenly while dragging and dropping it, I left the customer ID on top of the product ID column. But here you can correct it. Hey, this is not there. I made a mistake. You can go and correct it. Okay. This is how you can do it. Or else you can just double click on it. Yeah, it will go directly to that place. Correct. Or best thing, you can click on the manage relationship to verify that. Okay. When you click on the manage relationship, you can see that the customer ID, yes, it's correctly created. And in case anything you made wrong, I will just make, let me do one thing here. I create a product ID only, right? Let me just check these two things. Yeah, customer ID and product ID. Sorry, here I'm going to select wrongly here. Listen, when you drag and drop it, you drag the customer and put it on top of the product ID mistakenly. Okay. How do you correct it? You delete the relationship, recreate it. Other way is you can go to the manage relationship and you can see here the product ID and customer ID. These two columns are nowhere common, right? There is a mistake here. You can select this one, click on edit. And then you can go here and customer ID and correct it and then click on OK. That's it. So all right, you understood with this simple example how to create the relationship between the tables. Okay, I will show you what is a bridge table, many to many relationship, how we are going to handle it. That and all we'll see it little later.